I am born to open heaven's gates, to pour forth creation. I create life forms through words beyond imagination. Imagine beauty and truth and love and oneness. I am highness, blessed with a priceless treasure, bridging the gap between the present, past, and the future set of word armies. Communities, I come in peace. Let my words be like kiss on your lips. Let words impregnate you. And byword, my name is Kooky. Today we are going to be joined by two brilliant gentlemen.
Oh, Ryan.
Right here is Ryan and Vinny.
Hello.
Ryan's a director, while Vinny's a theater actor. Guys, tell us something about words. How do you view words?
Well, for me, words are just fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
From like any language, you could play around with it.
Mm-hmm. I know that you view words in a more on a more spiritual.
Yeah, I mean
level.
You can say that. Yeah, to me, words is they're the most malleable element. You know, most people will say elements are like, you know, obviously earth, water, wind, fire, right? Yeah. But words are powerful too. I mean, you can bend it, you can play with it, you can sharpen it. It cuts. You know, it's a useful tool. But it's such an integral part of who we are as people that, I mean, I would classify it as, you know, an element that makes us grow.
Worship. With what's beneath the surface do you love to worship? Is he worth it? Or do you love the chord progressions? Are you thrilled that the worship leader sings, well, so impressive? Do you love the builds, the rhythm, but is Jesus lost from the feeling? Is your praise personal or conditional? And do you understand that worship is his gift to you? So this isn't how you worship, but when you worship. Because when you love to worship, you may go to work, but you come to worship. You feel the warmth from the sun in worship, like, I thank God for his blessings. Please don't be numb to worship. So this is not a genre, but a gene. A gene that is found intertwined in the DNA of the redeemed. We worship because we're clean, but we worship because he cleaned us. And sometimes this worship is a war. To fight what tries to come between us. The Spirit intercedes and this worship becomes real as if we're sitting on his throne pouring perfume at his feet, consumed with a peace that can't be moved. It completes us. And yes, we're given to God, but we are not out giving God. So isn't this odd? You see, God is pouring his fuel of faith in our hearts. A fire that overwhelms, sets passions ablaze in our hearts. And as we gaze at the cross, we're eyes filled with faith. We're still surprised by the idea of grace. See, this compels us to worship with all of our being, our life, our breathing, our passions, our seeing. Keep believing, never ceasing, this offering of joy, a proclamation. To let the world know about the God who saved us. And when was the last time you picked up his word and said, God, I'm reading to worship, not to find out how to worship or be inspired to worship, but believing your word to be true is a form of worship to you. Sometimes being still is worship. And sometimes screaming out or bowing down or looking to the hills is worship. Other times you may raise your hands, but sometimes you may be undone. You may laugh, or you may cry so hard that there's no more words left in your lungs. You may be surrounded by the body of Christ or alone in your room seeking the Father of lights. And I'm not against a full band. Bass, guitar, keys, drums, leads, lows. As long as every pluck, every stroke, every hitting of those keys and pounding on those drums is done for the honor of his Son. So people, God's people, we should love to worship because he loved us first. We didn't deserve it. Thanks.
Do you always incorporate a higher being, God, in your poetry?
No. I mean, I want to try and stay as authentic to what I know. And considering that's what I grew up and that's what my past is and that's where I am now, it influences a lot. But it's not solely just religious. It's not solely just based around spirituality. Yeah, it definitely covers and encompasses a lot of my self or who I am, but it's not solely that.
Okay, but you write about everything positive.
Yeah. I try to see positive light and everything. I mean, there's still a lot of dark stuff that I write as well, but it's not necessarily solely just sunshine and rainbows. It's definitely a balance.
How do people perceive you? Are you a man of your words?
Yeah, well, hopefully that's what people see me. I mean, I'm human. I'm not perfect. I don't try to give out an air that I'm perfect or that I'm more righteous than another person or that I'm in a higher standard of living than another. But sometimes when you're going counterculture to what the norm is, you can be perceived as, snobby or pretentious or jerk or whatever you want to put it. But that's not what I'm trying to portray.
Do you take full control of people by using your words?
No. I mean, hopefully I can capture them in a more of like an audience to performer and somehow share what I was feeling when I wrote it. But it's not in a manipulative way where I want to sway their opinion one way or another.
Yes.
No, not at all. It's their opinion. You
still give them the
of course.
option that,
Of course.
Okay. How about you, Vinny? What's your experience with words? Well, aside from, memorizing your scripts, doing theater, acting.
Probably because ever since as part of being an actor, I always try to keep myself a journal. And I've been writing on these journals for the past few years. And whenever I want to revisit an emotion such as grief, such as ecstatic happiness, I would always try to look back at these pages in my journal, and sometimes I cringe at how shitty my rhetoric was back then, or probably how I perceive it as cheesy. But then, in some way, it does give a throwback on how I felt, because these emotions that I once felt it had like a great impact on me. Certain events, I try to, in my way, immortalize them. I've always loved to answer questions. Well, the new ones. Because here's the thing. If you're being asked the same old question over and over again, you start to hate it. And there's one question in particular that I hate the most. How are you? Because think about it. That question is like that. It's like, I have nothing else to say, so how are you? And, especially when like nothing's happened in your life, you just want to spice it up and say, how are you? And you're like, I've got cancer. And then you see that shock and you're like, what? And you're like, oh, sorry about that. I just, wanted you to give like a more, say, I just wanted to pull an emotion out of you, because something different from your life, and you're like, next time someone asks you, you kind of want to say, They ask you, how are you? And you respond, oh, I've got fired. And then you see that shock again. If I was a kinder person, probably I'd answer like that. I would. Like, if I was less kind, yeah, that was the right term. If I was less kind, I would actually answer that. But no. Instead, I've got to deal with these little voices inside my head. It's fascinating, these little voices. Sometimes you hear the voice of someone you know, sometimes it's someone everybody knows. Like, I may be speaking like this, but deep inside, I'm really most pissed at the world. It's not this voice that you hear. Instead, whenever I'm pissed off, I hear Bryan Cranston's voice in my head. When you think about it, you would really know I'm pissed off. But then, back then, when I was more, raging with my voice, and fucking hear Peter Capaldi's voice inside my head. Well, no, nowadays, you hear Bryan Cranston, because he's about to fucking explode. And then, when I'm happy than usual, there's Christopher Walken. It's crazy that way. But then if it's kind of a bit like both, you kind of hear like Bradley Cooper's voice and say like, no, fucking no. But you're like happy at the same time, you're fucking pissed off. And then when you have like this whole stable, angry sound that everyone tries to hear the fuck out of, and you're like, no. I am Leonardo DiCaprio. I can actually sound angry with a squeaky voice that's been trying to win an Oscar for the last how many years? 10 years. Nearly 10 years or more than, or something like that. But then, it's fascinating, these voices inside of the heads. Like I said, it may be someone everybody knows, like Bill Graham, or there be someone you personally know. It's actually fascinating when you think about it. First, I was speaking about the question I hate the most, which is, how are you? Now I'm talking about little voices. I just say, what the fuck?
Okay, tell us about your ranting earlier. What was that about?
I wouldn't really consider it like a ranting or... At first, it was a rant at first, but then eventually it became some kind of like a whatever babble.
Yeah.
Well, to think about it, that's...
You really hate that question.
Quite.
Okay.
I never really realized how much I hated being asked how are you. Probably if I'm really in a good mood or something really happened, something more exciting happened in my life, I'd be like glad to answer
get
it.
asked.
But then, if everything just seems the same, and then someone asks you, and you're in the you can like answer like same old, or just like I said, I'm like, you can tell someone like, oh, I have Ebola. And then they go for like a shock, and then whoa, and then you just tell them, oh, it's just like I just wanted to make the situation much more exciting, but actually it's been fucking boring for the last few days.
Okay.
So like that.
So about the scripts you've actually read, you've actually performed, who do you most identify with?
I wouldn't exactly say because I've never really performed the role, but I do read the script from time to time, and I think it would be a few of William Shakespeare's characters, such as whenever I'm in like a state of confusion, I would actually try to revisit Hamlet.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever I'm in my usual mood of vowing off relationship, that'd be like Benedict from What You Do About Nothing.
Okay.
But then since now I am still full of youth,
Mm-hmm.
I have this whole say I'm still in that age where I can transition into so many different quote unquote Vinnies
Okay.
in the next few years because of the age where I am, and then eventually proving myself, establishing myself as this man.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably right for me, the one character I most identify with would be Prince Hal from
Okay.
Henry IV, who would eventually become his own title character in Henry V.
Would you be willing to like recite a line or two
Yeah, dude.
from that
That'd be awesome.
piece?
Let's see. This was actually from Henry V,
Mm-hmm.
where then they were already into their final battle,
Mm-hmm.
in which they were deep in the heart of France,
Mm-hmm.
and like all the French cavalry have like gathered up all their people to fight against the
Mm-hmm.
English, because he's the English prince, and he king now,
Mm-hmm.
and then he goes for a rousing speech,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes, "This day is called the Feast of Crispian. He that outlives this day and comes safe home will set a tiptoe in this name is named and rouse up the name of Crispian."
Okay, aside from being a theater actor, you're also into a lot of other stuff, geeky stuff. You're into Doctor Who and Constantine. Tell us more about that.
There would be days that I would identify with myself with these characters.
Mm-hmm.
For one, I would identify myself as the Doctor because I've always viewed myself as some kind of an eternal outsider.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no matter where I go, no matter how close I get with certain people, there's always that one part in me that always identifies myself as an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that for some reason I don't belong here.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think is that?
Well, because ideals,
Mm-hmm.
and then what I'd like to do, the work I'd like to do, isn't always there. And then I thought of it like, what if I would go to another country? And then I would do well in my work, I would excel at, people would eventually accept these ideals of mine
Mhm.
that I bring it along. But at the same time, there's that feeling that I still don't belong because I wasn't from there originally, something like that.
Okay, maybe you should try seeking the refuge of words.
Yeah. But yeah, even in but then that's how I identify with the Doctor. I mean, I do make friends
Uh-huh.
from places I go, but then at the same time I'm still an outsider.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you two guys here. Have you ever tried winning a woman's heart using words?
Oh, all the time.
All the time.
That's like
Okay.
it. Goodness. It's as I said before, it's your most powerful tool. If you can't express yourself honestly, especially when you're trying to woo a woman, because they can see straight through your crap. You can't be real, and if you can't communicate at the most basic level. Poetry aside, suave aside, if you can't just communicate and look each other in the eye and have a connection with your words, then what use is it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not going to get anywhere. You might as well go to a club and just be hammered and go sleep with each
yeah.
other. You know what I mean? You can't have a conversation. You can't connect. Then there's no point in this. There's no point in this conversation that we're having. So, to answer your question, do I use my words as much as I can? Because if not, then what am I else? Well, like, what else do I have? My mustache? It's nothing else. You know what I mean? Like, hey guys, look at this.
It
you
looks
know what
good
I
on
mean?
you, by the way.
It's Matt. Trying to be Luigi.
How about you? I know you're young, but you know.
Actually, I don't exactly think it's in the words, but how you say it.
Oh.
I wish I had an accent like that.
Okay.
And actually, here's the thing. When I went to Barcelona back in 2013, some friends of mine brought me to a club, and I was like so pissed off. Because there are like so many beautiful women, and you can't even converse with one of them.
Yeah.
And you just have to like grind your hips at them, but not exactly that they feel violated or something like that. It's like, and then they would be like, "Oh, this guy probably has like a good hip. Maybe I can bring him home or something like that." but then, and then I was actually pissed off by the end of the night. I was like, I never felt like I was in I mean, like, no offense to clubbers, but for me, when I was in that area, I've never felt like my IQ was dropping by the second. But then, you know, and then a few days later, when we were still there, my friends brought me instead to a pub.
Okay.
And with there, you know, I could actually say, yeah, I did try to. I was able to when someone's hurt. And then, but yeah, I think it's probably in the level of alcohol. That I was like, it probably ingest maybe all that poetry was like snapping out of nowhere. And then from starting off the night, it sounded like this. I was actually probably into the night singing like this. Which probably, I don't exactly say it, but some girls do find it a bit cute.
Okay, I have a challenge for the both of you. Woo someone with 2 lines. Yeah, just 2 lines, 2 or 3 lines.
That's not fair.
No, just kidding.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
No, just kidding. I actually can't think of anything else. Say probably with 2 words.
No, 2 lines.
Oh,
or a
2.
line.
Probably with 2 words. Hello there. Probably.
Oh yeah, with the accent. Why not?
Why not, right? You had the trench coat earlier. You could do it. Hello there. That's awesome. For me, 2 lines. I guess I would say, this begins with a feeling, but ends in a beginning.
Wow. Thank you guys for joining me today. Forward, byward. See you again next week.
Okay.
Heyo.